In the previous tutorials, we wrote code to connect to ElectroServer and to log in. So now what? We're able to connect and log in to ElectroServer. So we have a connection established. Server knows who we are. We're ready to do stuff. So what next? Well, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a room and join it, and then send a public message to that room and receive the event that the message occurred. So to do this, we will use a create room request to join, to both create and join the room at the same time. And we'll listen for the join room event so we know when we've joined a room. We'll store a reference to the room object as a local variable, and then we'll use that room object to, along with a public message request, to send a message to the room, and we'll listen for the public message event so that we can see whenever a message has been broadcast from the room. And like the previous tutorials, we will not be building out any user interface here. This is all just code and log lines, and we'll be able to build and test the Unity example and just look at the console to see what's going on. So let's get started here. Alright, so far we have two event handlers here, on connection response and on login response. So let's go down to the on login response. If the login was a success, then let's join a room. So I'll just create a join room function here. It doesn't exist yet, so let me create that. Void join room. And in this, so this function, this join room function, is called if we successfully log in. So in this function, let's create a new create room request. New create room request. And on this create room request, there are a ton of properties that you could flag. In this tutorial, I'm just going to show you the basics, the basic few that you need just to join a room. But you can learn more about all the other properties from our website, or maybe from other tutorials. The create room request is extremely flexible and has more properties than probably any other request out there, but they're all defaulted to the most common values, so you only really need to set a couple of them to create a room. So we'll set the room name, crr.roomName, and just call it test room, and the zone name, crr.zoneName. Do zone name, test zone. Alright, so what is a zone? A zone is a collection of rooms, much like a room is a collection of users. So a zone doesn't exist by itself. It has to have a room to exist, and when you create a room, you just have to say which zone you want it to go in. You can give it any name you want. You don't have to create a zone by itself or anything. It's just automatically created if it doesn't exist. Alright, so we specified the room name and the zone name, and that's all we have to specify. Now let's send it. es.engine.send crr. You should note that this is a create room request, so you might think, well, it's just going to create a room, it's not going to join me to it. Well, there is a property on this object, create or join room, and this is a Boolean, and by default this is set to true. So we don't actually need to set it here, it's already set to true. When it's set to true, this means that if you try to create this room, but it already exists, you're going to be joined to that room. If you set it to false, and you try to create this room, and the room already exists, you will not be joined to it. It'll just come back with a a failure to create the room. So you almost always are going to want to just set to true so that you can just use this one request and you can create or join the room. So we'll leave it as is. So if we were to run this code right now, you would join the room, but you don't know that you actually joined it because we're not listening for the join room event yet. So let's do that. es.engine.join room event plus equals on join room event. And we'll create that event handler. And it takes a parameter of join room event. So what we'll want to do here is the join room event contains a few properties. The ones that you're going to that you care about are the room ID and zone ID. Every room has a unique ID and within a zone, and every zone has an ID. So we're going to use the room ID and zone ID to look up the room reference. There's a room object that's automatically created and stored within the API. So we're going to use those IDs to look up that room and store it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a room property here. Room, and we'll set it down here. Room equals es.managerHelper .zone manager, and we're going to look up the zone by ID, e.zone ID, and on that zone we're going to look up the room by ID, e.room ID. So now we've just stored a reference to the room that we joined locally, and let's log this out too. Room joined. Okay, we'll flip over to Unity now and just test this and make sure it works. It looks like it didn't work. I see a connection success, but nothing else here. Let's flip back and see what's going on. Oops. I was testing something else out here with the language filter. Using a bad name. So let's change that name back to guest, and we'll try this again. Okay, now it works. So connection success true, logged in, and room joined. Okay, now I'm flipping back over to Unity. Over to Visual Studio. And now we're successfully connected to a game. To a room. Let's add the ability to send a chat message and receive it. So in the join room event, right here, let's send a message. Test send public message. I'll create this function. And you send a message to a room using a public message request. So create a new public message request. And on this public message request, you can set the room ID, room.id, and pmr.zone ID equals room.zone ID. And then we'll want to actually set a message. So let's do the classic hello world. And then we can just send this. es.engine.send PMR. Okay, so we created a new public message request, and we set the room ID and zone ID on it so that the server knows which room we want to send this to, and we set a message on that object as well. There are a lot of other properties on this object that you could flag, but these are the basic ones that you need. So now let's listen for the room event, for the public message event. es.engine.public message event plus equals on public message event. And that takes a public message event object. So let's log what's going on here. Log message received, and we'll log who sent it. e.username, and we'll just add the message right after it. e.message. Okay, so we added this public message event handler. When a public message event is received by the client, the onPublic message event method is invoked. We log out message received and username : message. So let's test this and see what happens. Save it, flip over to Unity, let's execute the application. Alright, so we see connection success true, logged in, room joined, message received, and guest sent hello world. It works.